It may sound crazy, but there's actually evidence to back up the theory that Vecna has been around since the pilot episode of Stranger Things. The tall, lanky figure that we saw in the pilot was presumably a Demogorgon, but since it was really dark and only the figure's silhouette was visible, there's an equal chance that this was actually Vecna secretly appearing in the first 5 minutes of Stranger Things. Indeed, Chapter 1, The Vanishing of Will Byers, happened several years ago, so it's possible that at the time, Vecna looked very differently from the villain that we know from Season 4. After all, while Stranger Things Season 4 already revealed Vecna's origin story, there's a huge chunk missing between 11 sending Vecna to the Upside Down and Vecna's reemergence in Hawkins. Although the figure that Will encounters doesn't completely resemble the Vecna we know, this may have been one of the many stages in Henry Creel's long transformation to become the terrifying Lich. Additionally, Will's Season 1 encounter happens near the very drain pipe that Number 1 told 11 about in Season 4, which was how 11 first escaped Hawkins National Laboratory. Conversely, a Demogorgon could have been drawn there due to 11's residual energy. That said, based on how mindlessly these upside-down creatures behave, then Will wouldn't even be alive if he got kidnapped by a Demogorgon. This brings us to our next big piece of evidence. Nearly every Hawkins resident that met the Demogorgon in Season 1 died in its maw. This includes 2 Hawkins lab technicians, Nancy's then best friend Barb Holland, and local hunters Henry and Dale. Dr. Brenner and Will Byers were the only ones who survived Demogorgon attacks during the first season. Yet, while Brenner had luck and some experience on his side, then why didn't the Demogorgon kill Will, who was alone and helpless against its attacks? Sure, the creature's actions could be attributed to Vecna's hive mind. However, Vecna's powers are actually limited to pointing these creatures in the right direction, not making them accomplish specific tasks. So it's much more likely that it was Vecna himself who had to do the kidnapping, not one of his mindless soldiers. In fact, this would also explain the so-called Demogorgon's advanced abilities in the first season. After Will ran home to lock himself inside their house, the creature that was coming after him opened the chain lock with telekinesis. It is Vecna and 11, not Demogorgons, who are known for using this ability. 11 has even pulled off the same lock trick in Stranger Things twice, the first time in Will's house and then again when they were at Benny's. This may be one of the many parallels that the show has drawn between Vecna and 11, that they use their power to overcome borders, natural or otherwise. Also, a Demogorgon wouldn't menacingly stalk Will in such a calculated manner. It would simply burst through the walls to catch its prey. This brings us to another suspicious factor about how Will survives this supposed Demogorgon attack. In Season 2, Jonathan uses the song Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash to help Will fight the Mind Flayer's influence. Back when he was kidnapped and stuck in the Upside Down, Will stayed sane by singing this same song. Should I stay or should I go? Now that we know that favorite songs help ward off Vecna, this may be the reason why Will survived. No one knew it at the time, but by just jamming to The Clash, Will was already keeping his real kidnapper, Vecna, at bay. So if this is really the case, what stopped Vecna from revealing himself during the first season? After how 11 first banished Henry Creel to the Upside Down, it makes sense that Vecna would be careful not to show himself to just anyone. Vecna may have even allowed the Demogorgon to use Barb's dead body to draw suspicion from his real goal. As Vecna was yet to have actual power in Hawkins, he had to employ these tricks to hide from the town's potentially psychic residents, like Will Byers himself. In fact, it was Will's potential that got him nabbed by Vecna in the first place. Speaking of which, Vecna personally kidnapping Will in Season 1 would also explain the inseparable connection between their minds. It's presumed that this is because of the time Will spent in the Upside Down in Season 1. But it would make more sense if this connection is actually due to Vecna himself kidnapping Will back when his latent psychic powers were in the earliest stages of development. And if you think all this in-universe evidence isn't enough proof, the showrunner's comments on the matter actually line up with this popular theory. According to Stranger Things showrunner Ross Duffer, they've had plans for the show's main antagonist since the very first season of the show. Here's what Duffer told IndieWire back in a 2022 interview. It's not like there was someone called Vecna. but it was going to be about number one, and I remember even talking about in the early days, they'll do spin-off comic books or things like that. Going, you could do other numbers, just stay away from one. We knew we wanted this entity controlling everything, but it wasn't really until we'd gotten into the season that we figured out all the details, that it was Henry, that this is how his powers are going to work and operate and all of that. So we like leaving these huge goalposts, what the upside down is, and we hint at it this season, but the final reveal is going to be in Season 5, and we're excited about that. So while Vecna himself wasn't fully formed until he appeared in the 4th season, his previous version, number 1, could have actually kidnapped Will in Season 1. As Ross Duffer explained, the showrunners and writers continuously develop the story through certain goalposts, and with a big one firmly in place. The massive gate to the upside down in Hawkins. There are several ways for Vecna to be retroactively written into Season 1. After we've seen the mind-bending illusions that Vecna can project inside his victims' heads, he could have simply obscured his presence in Hawkins through similar tricks. Vecna may have even adopted the look of a Demogorgon temporarily before unleashing an actual one through town, creating a scapegoat for activities that Vecna himself had done at the time. Vecna wasn't as proud or powerful as he was in Season 4, so he had to do all these tricks to ensure that he wouldn't just get zapped to the upside down again. With or without his hive mind powers, Vecna would be smart enough to trick the Demogorgon into doing his bidding. And perhaps more importantly, retroactively putting Vecna in Hawkins during Season 1 could end up giving Will Byers a much better character arc for the finale. Stranger Things still hasn't fully explained why a supposed Demogorgon kidnapped Will but didn't kill him, nor use his dead body to breed slugs. But the show could clear things up if it was Vecna himself who actually took Will to the upside down. In Season 5, Vecna's true intention could be revealed, to use Will as his vessel in our world, and in the process, become more powerful than even 11. From the beginning, Vecna knew that 11's willpower was always too great for this particular purpose. However, unlike number 1 and 11, Will was never trained to use his psychic or telekinetic powers. Will Byers may just be the blank slate that Vecna needs to reclaim his humanity and shed his terrible form. Such a dark ritual could combine the potential of the two sensitive minds, potentially giving Vecna enough of an edge for 11 to no longer be a threat. We know that Vecna uses upside-down creatures like the Demogorgon and Mind Flayer to do his bidding in Hawkins. However, it makes sense if Vecna trusted only himself in jump-starting his evil plans within plans. This is especially true if he ends up trying to use Will as his vessel in the mortal world or to somehow extend his power. Apart from the fact that the evidence is there to prove all this, it would also be a great springboard for Stranger Things to outdo itself in the 5th and supposedly last season of the show. If the show does retroactively write Vecna into the events of Season 1, Stranger Things could better underscore just how sinister Henry Creel has become a predator. But for good. Moreover, it could pave the way for Will Byers to claim his destiny as a hero. So what do you think? Was Will's Season 1 kidnapper simply a Demogorgon, or Vecna himself? Tell us your thoughts and theories in the comments. And thanks for watching Movie Recap Pro.